I'm honored to be among such accomplished women. Yay.
Yeah.
Sandy, my dear friend, had given the title to my speech, Escape from Hungary, A Story of Courage. She seriously overbilled me. First, a disclaimer. All my actions were driven by desperation, not by courage. The uprising of October 1956 was put down by Soviet tanks. We knew the aftermath would be brutal. After a stagnant pause, people started to look for a way out toward the west. The Iron Curtain blocking our way. There was no future for us. There was no hope for a better tomorrow. My parents saw this clearly. The risk was great. Get shot, get captured, get beaten, get imprisoned. But the hope was also great. Taste the freedom we craved but never experienced. Be educated, be able to work, be able to voice ideas freely. The future, such a beautiful concept. My mother's eyes were red. I knew she had been crying. Father was unusually quiet and serious. And then the unexpected happened. It was late in the evening when he asked the family together. In an unusually muffled voice, straining to conceal his emotions, he said that he had made the decision to help us, my brother and I, escape to the west, to Austria, through the Iron Curtain. He arranged for transport to the border zone. That in itself was a great risk without permission. It has all been arranged. I was stunned. That is what I wanted, or wasn't it? We nodded, unable to speak. How could they make such life-altering decision? They loved us so much. They sacrificed that future for ours. Will we ever see them again? The truck will come tomorrow at dawn, Father continued. When you're safe, try to send a word. Don't ever forget who you are. Work hard, be honest, be happy. That is all he could say without breaking down. Mother could not talk, just touched us, stroked us repeatedly. We tried to get some rest, but tension was rising, crowding out all thoughts. Time stood still, yet dawn had come. The goodbyes were brief and will be forever etched in my heart. Take care, my little girl, my mother said, squeezing me hard to her body and placing a cross on my forehead with her thumb. Be brave and remember your integrity, said my father, embracing us tightly. The escape. We were sitting in a huge semi, squashed right behind the driver. My brother and I were silent as we rumbled down the quiet street in the early hours of a new day indeed. I stretched my neck to look behind me and take a picture in my mind of the street where I grew up, of the bridgehead where I walked to Margaret Island so many times during my youth. It was December 2nd, 1956. It was a cold winter day. Skies were completely overcast. The acacia trees I loved so much were in a leafless state of hibernation, like my heart, which was void of feelings. My emotions were on hold until after we crossed the Iron Curtain into our future. I noticed that my brother did not look back. All I had with me was my purse. It was in my lap. I hung onto it, squeezing it hard until my fingers hurt. We did not have any luggage. We did not have anything worthwhile to take with us. But we did not even have a toothbrush, so we would not be suspected of attempting to escape if we were caught. The Iron Curtain loomed in the back of my mind. I could not imagine what a border area would look like. The danger of it lurked in every corner of my mind, like a big black cloud of no specific shape, just an unidentifiable blob of darkness crowding up all reasonable thought. The truck rumbled on. We were outside of Budapest now, nearing the first checkpoint of many. Our driver pulled up to a pub before attempting to go through it. Since I sat right behind him in a very close proximity, I smelled the purpose of his stop. He drank a couple of shots of courage. I registered this, but did not fully process it. Later, I thought. There will be time to think about everything later. He pulled up to the checkpoint. Papers, came the gruff command from one of the two soldiers with guns on their shoulders, their hand close to their holsters. The driver handed him his papers, with a few large bills folded in a crease. The soldier took it, put the money in his pocket, and waved us on without a word. I felt my entire consciousness leaving outside my body. I have never felt in limbo like this ever before, or ever again in my life. Fear takes many shapes. The truck rumbled on. The desolate countryside with large snow-covered fields were passing by. Little villages looked like they were all closed up, empty. There was no foot traffic, no little gatherings of morning gossip. Here and there, a person would walk at a fast pace, all bundled up against the cold, eyes cast on the ground against any accusations. I watched all that going by, like a movie. I did not feel like a participant. The truck rumbled on. Another pub stop. Must be another checkpoint approaching, I thought. The driver was tightly wound. None of the many shots of palinka seemed to affect him. As we were getting closer to the border area, the number of bills in the documents got greater. The demand for them louder. The truck rumbled on. Dusk was setting in. Another little village came into view. Soon the truck came to an abrupt halt. "We're here," the driver announced. "Please get out." Our lips were cramped, but being 18 years old cured it quickly. We got off the truck and walked around where the driver introduced us to a farmer with a little horse and buggy. "We will take you across," he will take you across, said the driver, and hauled him back up to his seat. The truck rumbled away. We rode a short distance on the buggy to a small ramshackle of a house with thatched roof. The farmer pointed us inside. The kitchen was warm from the stove in the corner. There may have been another room, but we did not see any. The farmer's wife, a short, brown woman, had a pleasant smile on her face. Sit down, she urged us. "Over there with the others." "Others?" I looked around in the dim little tiny kitchen. There were 3 others in the shadows. I thought we were going to be the only ones. I did not like this change of plans, but we had no choice. Now or never, this was our chance. We will have to wait till after midnight, until good and dark," said the farmer in a slow, measured tone. "We hope for a moonless night," he added. We all sat quietly, waiting for the darkest of the dark night, sipping hot tea. At last, it was time. We left the house, single file, following the farmer. The other people were carrying luggages. I did not like it. I felt this would slow us down, jeopardizing our safety. Once again, we had no choice. We had no idea where we were and which way was out of the country. I felt powerless but determined. The farmer dictated a pretty fast pace. One woman was struggling to keep up with her heavy burden and falling behind. The farmer did not look back once. I chose to ignore it. My brother, however, picked up the luggage out of her hand, allowing her to catch up with us, the rest of us. The fields were snow-covered. The ruts were frozen hard. I started praying I would not twist my ankle in the dark. It was indeed a moonless night. We had come to a little clear patch of sorts. We gathered. The farmer pointed a crooked finger at a narrow footpath. Follow on the path until you get to some railroad tracks, then follow them until you see lights. That's Austria. People will be waiting for you. Do not waver off anywhere. Stay on the path, like I said. The border guards may spot you from the towers. Do not run or they will shoot you. When the flares go off, just hit the ground and don't move until it gets dark again. He turned around and left us there. Once again, the powerless feeling washed over me. The deal was that he takes us across the border. There was no use even thinking about that now. We started on again. It seemed we were walking forever. All of a sudden, flares lit up the sky. We hit the ground face down. You could read a book, it was so light. We heard machine gun fire and dogs barking in the distance. I did not mind getting shot, but I was petrified of dogs. Oh God, let it be over soon, I prayed. I'll never be impatient again, I offered. Finally, it got dark again. We moved on, picking up our pace. Once again, flares lit up the night. We hit the frozen fields. This time, we did not hear any shots. It was so quiet that the hair stood up on the back of my neck. What's next? We continued by the railroad tracks, and an indeterminable amount of time, we saw lights in the distance. We certainly did not want to get caught now. We were so near. Eventually, I could make out the source of the light. I saw a tall chain link fence, and behind it, on the side of the free world, there were news vans lined up with their high beams lighting the way. How appropriate, I thought, from darkness of oppression into the light of freedom. One of these vans had a red cross on its side. Others were Life, Le Monde, Stern, and such from all over the world. Only a few weeks ago, when wounded Hungarian freedom fighters needed life-giving plasma, Soviet troops did not let the International Red Cross enter Hungary. I recall bitterly. They were always where they were needed, or tried to be. This was all behind us now, but I will never forget the tall chain link fence that will symbolize the Iron Curtain of my nightmares for years to come. So we made it. We escaped. We were refugees. But it did not feel like that. It felt good to be a refugee. I felt the dark cloud lifting in my mind, being replaced with bright sunshine, even in the middle of the night. I seemed to have descended back into my body as well. It felt like I was opening my eyes for the first time after a long, long sleep. As we crossed over into the magical land of our dreams, I kissed the ground. With this gesture, I welcomed my new life where I was to be in charge of my destiny and never before. At the same time, I slammed the door on my previous life shut. The question I want to pose to you is, do you think I was courageous? Or was it my parents who had the greater courage? Not over yet. 1 minute. Before we set out on our journey to the West, my parents taught us to say, "Ich bin ein Flüchtling." I'm a refugee in German. As if the whole world wouldn't be able to come to this conclusion just by looking at us. Our shabby clothing was all too obvious. Consequently, we never had to utter those words. The chain link fence ended where Austria began, and the last few steps were so easy that the details eluded me completely. There was a welcoming committee of smiling, sincere people who ushered us into a nearby school. The classrooms were empty of the students' benches. Instead, long tables and chairs were set up. It was inviting and warm. We did not realize how cold we were. My lips were chapped from heavy breathing and must have been cracked because a lady came over offering me some Vaseline, motioning to put it on my lips. The tables were laden with food that served as nourishment as much as they appealed to the taste buds. Hot tea was served with real lemon, not ascorbic acid. Big thick slices of white crusty bread spread with real butter, not margarine, about 1 centimeter thick. The best part was a large heaping plate of sardines, also liberally sprinkled with lemon. I will never forget that first meal for as long as I live, and every time I think of it, my mouth waters. Unbeknownst to us, we were in Pumhagen, a tiny border town. After we ate our fill and warmed up, we were assigned a place to bed down. It was down by the time we should have been that tired, but we could not rest. We were much too wound up and excited from the experience. We had to see where we were and what this wonderful place looked like. We walked out to see the town. We did not get too far because we could not tear ourselves away from a general store's window display. It was jam-packed with everything your heart desired. Such abundance: canned hams, big bundles of bananas, oranges spilling out of a horn of plenty, large tablets of chocolates. We always noticed the food first. There were packages of nylon stockings, watches, radios, ballpoint pens. We looked at the goodies at each other intermittently. Wow. The Austrian volunteers could not do enough for us. They knew what circumstances we came from, having been liberated from Soviet occupation only 3 years prior. The next day, we needed to register with volunteer organizations, but we were restless, too eager to get on with our lives. So we decided to hitchhike to Vienna. Nothing prepared us for the sights of Vienna, however. We were dropped off at Maria Hilferstrasse, a wide boulevard. Over the street were strings of Christmas lights for upcoming holidays. As if the city put on a Sunday's best for us. And the stores and the displays, we were enthralled. We were breathing in all the sights and sounds. With big exuberant laughs, like a person who has been underwater too long or just came up for air. We have come up on a movie theater showing Gone with the Wind. We could not resist. The last foreign film shown in Hungary was 1948. We were starved for a real entertainment. To round out the ultimate experience we were about to have, we bought an orange to split between us. Actually, the lady would not accept our money. She gave us the orange. We went to the movie cashier for tickets, where once again, we were handed 2 tickets, free, accompanied by a huge smile. We learned and used Dankeschön profusely. We stared at the beautiful movie in English with German subtitles, neither of which we understood. It was a good thing we read the book. My mother's favorite actor was Leslie Howard. How could she choose him over Clark Gable? After the movie, our attention focused on more mundane matters, such as shelter for the night. We decided to spend the night in a church and find the American embassy the next day. I can attest to the fact that churches are very cold. And the pews are mighty hard. Early next morning, we found the American embassy surrounded by literally thousands of patiently waiting people. We lined up with them. Luckily, the embassy was swarming with volunteers from all over the world, and they were well organized. There were all kinds of relief organizations, among them Caritas and the Red Cross. Name, address, religion, and where do you want to go were the questions. We had no address, so they immediately assigned us to a camp. We stated our religion. Some eyebrows were raised. Since you are of different religions, you cannot both be registered here, we were told. My brother was directed to a different table. It never occurred to us to lie. Could you at least indicate that another family member is here, so we will not be separated, we asked? No, it was not possible. We had to go our separate tables, so we did. My brother and I made a pact that whichever one of us reaches America first will sponsor the other. As we lay in bed at night, I sadly recalled my incident with a Franciscan friar a couple of years ago. It had nothing to do with my religion or of my brothers, or our redemption. These rules were man-made and ridiculous. That settled that. I sunk into a blissful dreamless sleep. I was notified first. We did have to go our separate ways. We said our tearful goodbyes, and I reported to the designated office. Little did we know at the time that we were just going to another camp to wait some more. We boarded buses, and after that seemed a long drive, we arrived at an area filled with army barracks that were idle after occupying forces left it. I was directed toward a very large building. Inside, it looked like a giant hospital ward. Beds were lining both sides of the immense space. There were 120 beds to be exact. I counted them, and I occupied one. There were 8 other women in this room. The rest were all men of various ages. As inexperienced and naive I was, something told me this was not a healthy situation. There was communal showers, alternating men and women. This was most welcome, although unfortunately there was no hot water. There was nothing to do but show up for meals that were delicious, sit on the bed contemplating our future with others. Nobody ever made a pass at me. Anyone was on their best behavior, but the uneasy feelings never left me. Waiting was difficult. I did not know whether I was just impatient or restless. The worst of it was that we did not know when we would be going to America. No one knew anything, but speculation was around. After a few days, I decided to take matters into my own hands. Early one morning, I walked out of the camp onto the highway. A car stopped to pick me up, and almost immediately. I indicated I wanted to go to Vienna to the American embassy. He smiled as if to say, "Of course you do. Isn't everybody?" As we were approaching the building, endless lines snaked around it, 5 in a row. My benevolent driver dropped me off right in front. "Dankeschön," I said, and hurried up the steps to the front door, ignoring the lights. Morgan, I nodded to the guard at the door. All right, I was in. Now what? Just as I was getting panicky, as if by divine interference, one of my brother's good friends appeared. "What are you doing here?" he said, surprised to see me. I told him our story of being separated at registration and the camp. And the camp I was in, under what conditions. "Can you find out for me when this group is scheduled to go to America?" I pressed him. "Come with me." So he went, trying to find the answers I needed. When he returned, I knew instantly the news was not good. In the States, the quota for Hungarians were filled quickly. Congress voted to extend another 10,000 from future years, but those have also been used up. So this doesn't look good. You'll have to wait 6 months for sure, maybe a year, maybe more, nobody knows. He saw my face fading into despair. Hey, didn't you want to go to medical school? He cheerfully all of a sudden. There's a group of med students going to Germany on a scholarship. You can get in on that. The bus is boarding on the side of the door as we speak. If you hurry, you'll catch it. I flew down the stairs. I looked back at him saying, tell my brother I went to Germany. The bus was boarding. I jumped down, the door closed behind me, and I was off to Germany. I was off to Hamburg in December of 1956. The next 13 years were eventful. After an ocean voyage, I landed in Canada. Another new country with language barriers, broken promises, and wonderful possibilities. That is where I met my husband, also a refugee. We set out on our new life together. As we managed to save a little money, we started discovering our surroundings, looking toward the United States mostly. The difference in standard of living and the friendliness of people were astonishing to us. People would strike up conversations at coffee shop counters. They were actually interested in us. We have never wavered in our quest to immigrate to the US. We walked every night in the most frigid Canadian winter, planning our grand getaway. We became Canadian citizens. We traveled, plotted, and planned. Finally, we applied to immigrate. Waited 2.5 years before we got our visa. We set out within a month. Where else? California. This was 13 years in the making, but it was well worth it. We were elated, charged. There was nothing we couldn't do. Upon arrival in Ventura, we felt we made it. We started yet another new life, much better prepared than ever before. The after effects of the 1971 Sylmar earthquake, we hardly noticed. We were home. We were both working within 2 weeks of our arrival, making good money. 3 months later, we bought our first home. We were off for sure. I started at Security Pacific Bank on a management training program. I was 33 years old, felt in a hurry, and I so stated to everyone who would listen. I intended to become a branch manager ASAP. They put me in charge of a small branch. Spent 5 months before I went to a larger, more complicated service area in Thousand Oaks. I loved it. A year and a half later, I was transferred to Canoga Park in the San Fernando Valley, a BP branch. Wow, I thought I had arrived. My boss came to tell me that I was appointed vice president. He saw my shining face and asked me, so what is next for you now? I said I wanted to be a regional vice president within 5 years. So it went, making my plans known, working hard. 8 months later, they sent me downtown to a commercial loan desk to learn a different trade. A year plus back to a branch in the west side of LA, then to a huge branch on Wilshire, largest deposit base in Los Angeles. 10 months later, I was appointed regional vice president and moved to San Diego. Mission accomplished. But it was not over yet. I retired at 60. We traveled, enjoyed the fruits of our labor. When I turned 65, I received a phone call from US Bank offering me a job. But I'm 65, I insisted. They did not care. We know you can do the job. We want you. Such a validation, such a gift. I could not turn it down. So I went back to work for 3 years, heading up all of San Diego retail before I retired again. A wonderful, rewarding life. The moral of the story, never give up, never give in. Follow your dreams, no matter what. Living in a country of your dreams that makes it possible helps. I'm grateful.
Wow.